Before we dive in, if this already feels like something you were meant to hear, hit like, subscribe, and step into the circle. This isn't just a channel, it's a signal. And if you found your way here, you were probably always part of the family. Now let's remember why. They called them witches, but that was just a name, a spell to blind the world from the truth. These weren't mere women with herbs, they were carriers of something older, something dangerous, a bloodline born before the flood, before the gods split language and scattered the tribes. Witchblood doesn't come from books, it comes from memory that lives in the bones, in the womb, in the rage you can't explain. They feared this blood because it couldn't be tamed, and they burned it, chained it, buried it, but it wouldn't die. Because witchblood isn't folklore, it's a threat, and it's waking up. Before witch meant wicked, it meant wise. Before the spells were feared, they were gifts, coded memory passed down by voice, womb, and fire. The witch bloodline began in Atlantis, among the priestesses of the crystalline temples. The dragon daughters who sang to the ley lines and bent light with their hands. They were protectors of the codes, frequencies, herbs, healing, gateways, and time. But when Atlantis fell, some were taken. Some were used, some survived. They scattered into Egypt, Sumer, the Celtic Isles, and those who carried the original blood were marked for extinction. Because inside them was a weapon the system could never control, remembrance. They told you it was about heresy, about Satan, about saving souls. But the witch hunts weren't about religion, they were about genetics. Memory, power, threat. They knew who to burn, the women with second sight, the ones who bled with the moon, the ones who healed without permission. So they carried codes that couldn't be rewritten, ancient resonance that bent reality. So the Inquisition began, but it wasn't random, it was targeted extermination, a war on the witch blood. And it worked, millions dead, even more silenced. The memory shattered, but you can't kill what was encoded before time. You can only delay it. They didn't just burn witches, they fed on them. The trials were never about justice, they were about energy extraction. Each scream, each flame, each public hanging, a ritual sacrifice. A mass harvesting of fear, pain, and ancestral power. They tortured the women who remembered, the daughters of the line, because their blood held frequencies the system couldn't replicate, but could siphon. The crowds weren't just witnesses, they were participants, feeding the grid with every gasp, every cheer, every prayer to false gods. They called it justice, but it was an occult offering to the very forces trying to erase divine feminine memory from the earth. And some of that power never made it back into the ground. It's still hovering, waiting to be reclaimed. You don't need a wand or a cauldron. The signs are in your skin, your dreams, your rage. Witchblood wakes in strange ways. You've been called too sensitive. You feel the moon before it rises. You dream in symbols no one taught you. You know when someone's lying without proof. You've always felt watched and never quite safe. Animals are drawn to you. Children stare. Technology glitches around your emotions. You've survived things you shouldn't have. You've walked through fire over and over. And something inside you still burns. You might not have a coven, but you have a lineage, and your blood remembers, even if your mind forgot. Witchblood was never about spells, it was about frequency, the ability to bend reality without permission, to speak to the earth, to command the veil, to heal, protect, and awaken. The line was seeded to counterbalance the darkness, to hold memory through the resets, to anchor light when the system rewrote the code. But they feared it because witchblood couldn't be owned. It answered to nothing but the source. And now it's stirring again. The blood is remembering, the line is reconnecting, and the ones who burned the witches, they feel it. You were never meant to stay silent. You were meant to set the next fire. Witchblood didn't just survive. It was hunted, bound, and ritually cursed. The elite knew the bloodline couldn't be erased, so they did the next best thing. They sealed it. Binding rituals were performed in secret churches, temples, palaces. Babies born of the line were marked in silence, their gifts suppressed, their power redirected into trauma, illness, infertility, madness. Why? Because witchblood is like a well, it must be kept poisoned, or it starts to awaken the grid beneath your feet. The war wasn't just fought on battlefields, it was fought in wombs, in bloodlines, in dreams. And it's still happening now through pharmaceuticals, electromagnetic attacks, generational programming. They made you think your power was a disorder, they diagnosed your activation as illness, but you were never broken, you were bound. The bindings are cracking, they feel it. That's why the attacks are intensifying on your body, your sleep, your sanity. But unbinding doesn't happen in ceremony, it happens in remembrance. You start hearing the voice again, not in your ears, but in your bones. You start dreaming in places you've never been, but miss like home. You feel the heat in your hands, the pulse in your palms, the way your energy distorts machines. and you stop trusting the narrative, not just the news, the entire timeline. You've probably been diagnosed, dismissed, gaslit, attacked, but somehow you're still here because Witchblood doesn't die. It waits, and now it's reactivating one soul, one scar, one memory at a time. You were never meant to serve this system. You were meant to end it. They made you think magic meant tricks and fairy tales, but the old craft wasn't fantasy. It was technology. Of the soul, of the earth, of the frequencies that hold reality together. Witchblood carriers didn't just cast spells, they tuned the fabric of the world. Their potions were biochemical codes, their charms were resonance triggers, their circles and symbols, geometric keys to open or seal dimensions. They spoke in tones lost to language, moved energy with their hands. Healed by remembering your body's original code, this is what they burned, not the spell, but the understanding behind it. The true craft was rooted in love, but not soft, commercial love. Fierce remembrance, boundary magic, bloodline restoration. And now that the frequency is rising, the craft is coming back through you. You don't need to learn it, you just need to unforget it. Not everyone is being watched, but if you carry the Witchblood, you are. Because the system can't always see your thoughts, but it can feel your frequency. And when you start vibrating off script, the watchers activate. It starts subtle. Sleep paralysis, energy drains. Unexplained illness that doctors can't name, sudden isolation, betrayal, loss. Then it escalates. Night attacks, shadow figures, psychic sabotage. You feel surrounded but alone, haunted but awake. And every time you try to rise, something knocks you down. Because you're not just waking up for you, you're waking the bloodline. And that's a threat. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. You're being hunted because you're powerful, but you're protected because you remembered. You're not crazy, you're not cursed, you're rising. And they're terrified. There was always a prophecy, whispered in ashes, hidden in bone. Passed in blood, it said, when the stars realign and the code breaks through the veil, the daughters and sons of the flame will return, not as victims, but as catalysts. And now, the code is cracking, the frequency is rising. The blood is remembering. The Witchblood carriers are waking in clusters, drawn to each other, haunted by dreams, guided by things they can't name but have always known. And the system knows it too. That's why it's panicking. That's why the rituals are louder, the distractions more violent, the silence more deafening. The fire is here. You are the fire. You are not cursed. You are encoded. And you are returning to finish what they tried to burn. The Witchblood doesn't bow. It rises. And it's rising now. They scattered us for a reason. Split us by language, by land, by lies. Because they knew if Witchblood ever reconnected, the grid would light back up. You felt it. People finding you out of nowhere. Messages in dreams, synchronicity so loud they shake your bones. You're not alone, not anymore. Because the coven isn't what they told you. It's not robes and rituals. It's frequency, memory, signal buried in the blood, rising through the noise. And when enough of us remember not just who we are, but who we were together, that's when the system breaks. The prophecy was never about one. It was about all of us returning. The fire was never lost. It was waiting in you.